Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. So we have one class left. If you're just joining me, I'm going through a Master Gardener program. I believe there's about 12 other videos. I'm going to make a like a file. What do they call it on YouTube? Not tag. Anyway, I want to put it in a folder with all of my other Master Gardener videos, and you can learn about how to soil test. You can learn about bugs, orchards, um, vegetable garden, herbaceous plants, ornamental plants. I mean, there's just a plethora of knowledge. So let's get into this today. This is about vegetable gardening 101. So this is just a row of crops, really straight, and then it looks like they have maybe straw in between, and that's a good weed suppressant. And this is how not to plant. They're kind of crooked, and the soil looks really dry. Doesn't really look like it has good tillage. All right. So gardening planning, slow your roll before you plant. I know all of us can get really eager and excited to plant, but it's important to allocate space for crops ahead of time. Um, let's see. Gardening and planning has the potential to save us time, money, and space. And then you need to estimate the seed quantities, provide a guide when seeding and transplanting time arrives. Try drawing out your plant graph paper. Make sure you have the right amount of sun or shade that the plant requires. Use proper spacing and crop rotation in the garden to reduce disease pressure. This gives us time to visualize garden and use space effectively. As a career option, education of proper planning and record keeping in the garden is a must in cultural management and disease prevention. Garden planning continued. You need to pick a location, and then four critical factors you need to think about is soil test. If you're want to plant blueberries, make sure it's more an acidic soil. Um, or if you want some pretty pink hydrangeas, make sure it's more of a basic or alkaline soil. And then you want light. Is your plant a shade lover, like coleus and ferns, stuff like that? And then the space, and then how much water they need. Soil, deep, fertile, well drained of medium texture, light, 6 hours daily minimum. Space depends on what you want to grow and how much you want to grow of it. Level sites are good. Slight slopes provides for better air drainage and less frost damage than a level site or one on a hilltop. Water, make sure you're able to provide plants with adequate water. When deciding on what to plant, think about what your family likes to eat and your family size. How much to plant. Do you just want fresh, or do you want fresh and some to can and put up for later use? Making a scale drawing of the garden can be beneficial. This will also help us to decide which crops to rotate and where for the next season. And this is a pretty garden. A lot of people have a vegetable garden like this, and they have some ornamentals like this pretty like urn with a pot with a plant. And so they'll mix, they'll put in combination of flowers and vegetables. So they have pretty interest, and when you're going to go harvest, you have something pretty to look at also. Plus, the pollinators like this, pollinators really love, flowers, and it will help, if they're close to vegetables, they'll pollinate those too. So planting a garden near the house makes it more accessible and thus is easier to care for, water, protect, and harvest. May be necessary to fence garden area to keep out pests such as wildlife, children, neighbors, etc. that inhabit the same area. A southeast facing site will dry out quicker than the morning, thus reducing disease problems. Plant rows north to south so that they receive sun throughout the day. Garden planning. Select vegetable crops for growing seasons. Warm season vegetables are most productive in higher temperature ranges and are better able to grow and produce a quality crop through Tennessee's summer heat. We are very humid. They are damaged or killed by frost and freezing conditions. Even cool, non freezing temperatures may prevent them from growing and yielding well. So, paying attention to local frost dates is especially important in selecting planting dates. And then, cool season vegetables. They can withstand temperatures below 32. How far below varies by crop and situation, and are generally more productive and have higher quality produce when grown during cooler season and fall seasons. Because of these attributes, cool season crops are planted in the late winter or early spring to avoid the hottest part of the summer. They can often be seeded again in the late summer to provide another crop during the fall season. And then we'll look at the tables like this. Table 1, safe planting dates with only a 10% chance of temperature lower than 32 or before fall. The date is determined by 30-year-old NOAA weather data from local stations. So like here in Tennessee, our safety net, I always plant like Mother's Day, which is kind of like almost beginning to mid-May. And then I don't really do a lot of winter crops. I'm going to start to get into gardening, so that will be exciting. My big thing, although I have waited, it's been very hot. It's still in the 80s, still in November, and I've even waited to plant my tulips and my narcissus, daffodils, and stuff like that because it's still so warm. Usually, typically, I would have already have planted my spring bulbs. So just pay attention, basically, to the weather. Look at your that year's Farmer's Almanac. So germination test if you're sowing seed. Paper towel test. Soak a paper towel. Put 10 to 20 seeds. Store in a plastic bag. Count after 1 to 2 days. And then obviously we soil test. Some seeds don't germinate well in paper towels like peanuts. Plant the seeds in a tray of moist potting soil. Clip sprouts to ground level once you count them. Garden planning. Site preparation. Start in the fall. Start with a soil test of the area you plan to put your garden. Mark the area and kill all the grass and weeds. This can be done chemically or biomechanically by hand. Once the grass and weeds have been killed off, you're ready to till in organic matter and any other fertilizer soil amendments recommended in your soil test results. Soil management is critical with our clay soils. You almost guarantee you will need to add organic matter. Lime is not always needed. Soil test. You don't have to stay for it, just do it. Whether you choose raised beds, vegetable rows, or container plants, require the soil to be worked to at least 6 inches deep and smothered before planting. Don't overwork or overtill the soil, or you'll end up with crusty, powdery soils, clods if tilled too wet. It's going to be like concrete, very hot. And then seed and transplant should be planted into moist, fine soil. If water can be squeezed from a ball, then it is too wet to till. Like that, it's so bumpy and rocky, it's not very smooth. I think they over-tilled that. And that is like a rut right there. You don't want to see that either. And here's some um, pretty plants up near the house you can see. And if you have proper tillage and good soil, proper amendments, organic matter, you'll do just fine. And it's just protected by um, the house, provide. It won't frost as easy. And these are some chickens and the little red flowers. That is red clover, which I'm going to be planting in my yard in the spring. I'm excited. And they're really pretty. There's a close up of them. It's a good cover crop. And here's a design of a front porch. She has some like big shrubs, and then she has like a row of some vegetables and maybe like a false cypress there. And so I like how she did that. She has some interest and colorful interest, and It's close to her house. She can sit on the porch and just look at all of her plants. It's easy to access and water. So containers and raised beds both are practical solutions for gardeners with limited space. Containers can be kept on decks, patios, or even window sills. Raised beds allow gardeners with limited space and poor soil conditions to concentrate on improving the soil just in the growing areas. And here we go. A lot of people, if you don't have room, raised beds are always good, and so are containers. You can put a lot in containers. I don't know, I have a big concrete one. I have a one, two, three, four, five. I don't know, probably maybe around 10 containers around my property. They're fun. And I have window boxes too. You can get a lot of impact with those. Usually raised beds are built to the size of 4 by 4 or 4 by 8 for ease of maintenance and convenient planting. To use raised beds efficiently, they should be well fertilized, watered, and kept filled with growing plants. When a spring plant is harvested, a summer plant should be planted in its place. Summer vegetables are then followed by fall vegetables. And then we have selecting varieties of crops for home gardens should be based on level of disease resistant, whether the growth habit of the crop will fit the garden space and cropping plan, the taste preference of the gardener, purchase seed from a reputable supplier and store them properly to ensure maximum productivity. Seeds can be collected from previous crop in some instances, but be cautious. Many crops are hybrids, which mean that the seed was produced from a cross of two specific parents to produce seed with desirable traits. A plant grown from seed collected from a hybrid plant will not have identical attributes to the parent and will often produce low yields and inferior quality produce. There are two main methods of planting vegetable crops: directly seeding into well prepared soil, purchase or grow plants for transplanting into garden soil. Most gardeners use both methods and select some crops for direct seeding and others for transplanting. Some of the most common crops to be transplanted are tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, cabbage, cauliflower, broccoli, and Brussels sprouts. While roots are somewhat tender in cucumbers, muskmelons, watermelon, and summer squash, these plants also can be successfully transplanted and handled carefully. These crops can be seeded in biodegradable pots so that roots will not need to be disturbed. Large seed crops such as beans, peas, and corns, as well as root crops such as radishes, beets, and carrots, are almost always direct seeded. Transplanting allows you to pick and choose the strongest, healthiest looking seedlings, gives plants a head start and shortens time in the fields and exposure to insect damage and weeds, and allows for earlier marketing and allows growers in northern latitudes to produce long season crops. Transplanting also provides uniform plant density, spacing, and ground cover, which help with competition by weeds and facilitates easier cultivation, ensures a reliable harvest and predictable harvest dates. Transplanting allows for efficient use of seed resources as thinning is not required. And then management of the home garden. Managing vegetable plants and home vegetable garden is a critical link between planning and knowledge in a successful harvest. Managing weeds provides adequate water and carrying out plant maintenance as well as controlling insects and diseases are essential. And here's some cells. Large cells, more time, bigger plant can contain 72 to 800 cells, about $1 a tray. I just get mine off Amazon. And then you can either do plug trays or flats, and then there's also the soil block method there, as you can see. And then you can choose your potting media, mix your own with peat, sand, compost, soil, perlite, vermiculite, core, shredded bark, etc. Or you can buy it pre-mixed. It has peat moss, perlite, and a wetting agent. Can have added compost or slow release fertilizer. And here is a high tunnel and I think a low tunnel. It just protects from insects and like the cooler temperatures. Those look like some onions there. I think they're brassicas. And there's another picture right there of some crops. And then a lot of people here drive by a strawberry farm. This is what they use. And it probably looks like they probably have something planted in the rows, and that tube is probably irrigation for water. And that's a field. And then we'll talk about nutrient deficiencies, and then you can always look. So visual diagnosis, soil test, and then foliar leaf analysis. Symptoms can be chlorosis, green chlorophyll is lost, or necrosis is cell death. Nitrogen deficiency is uniform chlorosis on older leaves. Chlorotic leaves can fall off and then stunting. So it's going to look a little yellow. And then potassium deficiency, margins of older leaves become chlorotic, followed by immediate necrosis. And then these are what you have to look out for: greenhouse pest, white flies, thrips, aphids, shore flies, fungus gnats, and um, spider mites. Aphids, many species of aphids, many host plants. This is a green peach aphid, and then there's some mummies. So you don't want to see those. And then greenhouse whiteflies. Host plants include tomatoes, eggplants, peppers, and cucumbers. Two spotted spider mites. Um, there are those. They feed on strawberries, beans, and tomatoes. And here's some pictures of a pretty garden for some inspiration. The daylily. And that pretty much brought us to the end of the class. Oh, and then this is the last slide. So this is a row, a crop of beets, and then a picture of canning. So that's a good beets are. I love pickled beets. And then after you eat the beets, you can drop some boiled eggs in there. They're so good. So like I said, I'm going to get more into vegetable gardening uh, this next year, 2025. I'm very excited. I have a bunch of seeds ready. I really enjoyed this year. I ate a lot of spaghetti squash. I'm definitely going to do that. And then I'm going to maybe do obviously tomatoes. I love tomatoes in the summer. There's nothing like a fresh cut tomato or a BLT or tomato sandwich. And then I'm going to do a melon. I'm not too sure if I want to do a cantaloupe or a watermelon, because I went through those this year too. But like I said at the beginning of the video, um, I have one more class after this, and I graduate in. Uh, I take a post test, and then I graduate in December, and then next year I try to go for my 40 hours of volunteer service. So I'm really excited. Thank you for joining me on this journey. I hope you have learned a lot like I have and are just eager and encouraged to go out into your garden. But if you like this video, give it a like, comment. Don't forget to subscribe. It's free. And I will catch you on the next one. Bye, y'all.